Let's be honest, web development can feel like this huge, confusing universe filled with code and jargon, right? Well, today we're going to demystify it. We're giving you the map, breaking down the absolute fundamentals, and we're starting with the biggest question of all. Okay, before we even get into the nuts and bolts, we have to address the elephant in the room. With AI blowing up and just all the noise online, you've probably heard the whispers, maybe even shouts, that web development is a dying field. You're scrolling online and you see it everywhere. Influencers claiming that AI can just whip up an entire website from a single sentence, making human developers totally obsolete. It's a pretty scary thought, especially if you're just thinking about starting out. It's enough to make you wonder, why even bother? But what's the real story? Yeah, not even close. The reality is, if you hop onto any major job site right now, you're going to find over 100,000 open positions for web developers. The field isn't dying, it's just changing. Companies desperately need people who actually understand the fundamentals so they can manage and work with these new AI tools. The demand is absolutely 100% alive. So, with that myth totally busted, where do we begin? Well, before you can build a website, you kind of need to understand the world it lives in. And the simplest way to picture the whole web ecosystem is to think of it like a giant restaurant. This analogy works so well. So the front end, that's your dining area. It's everything the customer, or the user, sees and interacts with. The decor, the menu, the tables. Then you have the back end. That's the kitchen, totally hidden from view. That's where all the magic happens, where your order is taken and the food gets made. And the database? Well, that's just the storage room, where all the ingredients, all your information and data are kept safe and organized. So this all boils down to one simple golden rule you can always remember. Front end is what you see and back end is what you don't. Think of a website like an iceberg. The part you see sticking out of the water in your browser, that's the front end. But the massive, powerful part underneath the surface that makes it all work, that's the back end. Okay, so that was the restaurant, the whole big picture system. Now, let's zoom in. Forget the whole system for a second and just focus on a single web page. To get how that's put together, we're going to switch our analogy from a restaurant to a house. Every web page you've ever visited stands on 3 pillars. First up is HTML, and that's the structure. Seriously, think of it as the blueprint and the wooden frame of the house. It defines where the rooms, doors, and windows go. Next, you bring in CSS for the design. This is all the fun stuff. The paint, the wallpaper, the furniture. It gives the house its style. And finally, you hook up the JavaScript for functionality. This is your electricity and plumbing. When you flip a switch and a light turns on, that's JavaScript at work. And just like you can't build a house by starting with the paint, you can't build a website without a solid frame. In the world of web development, that absolute, non-negotiable starting point, the skeleton, is always HTML. So what is HTML? Well, it stands for Hypertext Markup Language, which sounds way more complicated than it is. Its job isn't to look pretty or do fancy things. Its one and only purpose is to give a web page structure and meaning. It tells the browser, hey, this chunk of text is a headline, this is a paragraph, and this thing right here is an image. It's the skeleton, pure and simple. So let's be crystal clear on this, because it's super important. HTML is the structure, the skeleton. It is not the design or the clothes. It gives content meaning, like saying this is a headline, but it doesn't handle the action of clicking a button. And here's the big one. It's a markup language for organizing content. It is not a programming language for writing logic. Getting that difference is the most important first step you can take. I see this all the time. Beginners get so excited, they just rush past HTML to get to the cool stuff, like JavaScript. But that's like trying to install light fixtures before you've even put up the walls. If your HTML foundation is weak, I promise you the entire website you build on top of it will be unstable and an absolute nightmare to fix later on. So why are we hammering this point so hard? Why does this foundation matter so much? Because once you really understand HTML, you have this aha moment where you realize it's not just for websites. It is the universal language for content all across the digital world. I'm not kidding. Just think about it for a second. Every single website you visit, Google, Amazon, you name it, is built on an HTML skeleton. A ton of mobile apps use HTML to show you content. Those slick emails and newsletters in your inbox? Structured with HTML. Even ebooks are basically just a bunch of HTML files zipped together. Learning this one skill unlocks a massive part of the digital world. And that's really the core takeaway here. From the most complicated web app on the planet to the simplest little email, it all starts with that same fundamental building block. This entire digital world is built on this one simple foundation. So the only real question left is, what will you build with it?